week. Last week we talked about just thriving in our Christian life in general, and what it takes, the things that we have to master to be able to do that. And we went over 4 things, I believe, it was that we have to do. And over the next few weeks, we're just going to look at specific things, specific line items in our lives that if we want to thrive and have a thriving, for instance, today we're going to talk about marriage. If we want to have a thriving marriage, what do we need to do? How does that apply to our lives? What does God say that we need to do instead of just surviving our marriage to thrive it? It's too many of us sometimes feel like we're just surviving in marriage, and that's not what our marriage relationship was intended to be at all. So let me start with this. I realize that not everybody in this room is married. Some of you have been married, you're not any longer. Some of you are married now. Some of you are still single, haven't been married. We will be directing most of this towards the marriage relationship, but it does transfer to pretty much all of our relationships. If you apply these things in all of your relationships, it will help you to thrive in those relationships as well. And so we're right on time right now, so let me not get behind schedule by rambling any longer. So we're just going to get right with it. Just to start off again, let's review John 10:10. John 10:10 says, the thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. My purpose is to give life in all its fullness. To give life in all its fullness. Or your version may say, and give life more abundantly. That you may have life and have it more abundantly. That means to thrive, not just to live, not just to survive, but to thrive. And there's a difference, again, between surviving and thriving. There's a big difference between surviving and thriving, because we can, as humans, we learn to adapt. We can adapt to pretty much any situation for at least a length of time. I started watching a show, and I missed a few episodes of it, and I never can catch back up with it. My hard drive on my DVR messed up, so it's not recording the things that it's supposed to record, and that's a whole issue between me and Dish, but we won't get into that. But anyway, that hard drive messed up, it's not recording, so I'm skipping around in these episodes, and the show is called Alone. And basically, they dropped, I don't remember, like 12 guys off in the wilderness. They're just like, I believe it's in Alaska, if I remember correctly, but they just drop them in. They're several miles apart. They're like 9, 10, 12 miles apart from each other. So they are totally isolated. They are to live in this area, and it's basically the last man standing. Whoever can stay there the longest, and they'll go just as long as people can survive. Last time I saw it, they were down to 4 guys. 4 guys. All right, good. I got somebody else that's watching. They're down to 4 guys. They're just living in the wilderness. They eat whatever they can find. They got to bring a few survival things with them. They gave them, I believe, a flare gun and some pepper spray in case of bears or some kind of predator. But for the most part, they have to pioneer. And it was funny watching all of them as they dropped them off. Everybody had these high hopes, and they had these expectations that they were going to make it all the way. I'll be the last one here. And by the first episode, one guy was gone. He was crying. He was like done. I heard a mountain lion or something. I mean, he was just gone. And then slowly people have just left, and they've realized that even though they may be able to survive, they may be able to live, all of them are actually having trouble thriving. It's not like it is here. If I get hungry, I can run to Sonic. If I feel real adventurous, I'll go to Super C and get me something to cook. But most of the time it's Sonic. I can go to Sonic, they'll fix me something, I can thrive on a double cheeseburger. I can. It's the way that I live. It's what I do. But you can thrive here very easily compared to what some people have to go through, what some situations you find yourself into. So we are very good at adapting to survive, but it's harder for us to adapt to thrive. And marriage could probably be compared a lot to being dropped off in the wilderness. Sometimes when you start out, I mean, I don't know about you. I got married very young. Let me just say this. Let me say our parents were probably right. We were married too young. It was too young. By the grace of God, He saved me from Shall and killing me, and we survived everything, and we have been married 20 years, and to be honest with you, every year just gets better and better. I love her with everything that is within me, but the first little bit felt like I dropped off in the wilderness with no survival skills, no survival tools. We're just here. And as I look back on our relationship, there are some things that I saw in our lives and biblically, things that you need to do if you want your marriage to thrive. So we're going to jump right into these things. Surprisingly, they look an awful lot like the things that you have to do to master a successful Christian life, to master a thriving marriage, to have a thriving Christian marriage. The things you have to do look a lot alike, because it all boils down to following Christ and being like Christ. And so these are going to sound very familiar. We're just going to pull it out of different scriptures. The first thing that you need to be able to do and that you need to master is overcoming selfishness. That's hard for us. That's hard for us to overcome selfishness, because up until the time you were married, it's all about you. Whatever you want, you get to pick what you want to eat. When you get married, nobody picks what you want to eat. You ever notice you never had trouble when you were alone picking where you wanted to go, but you put two people in the equation, nobody has any idea what they want to eat that night. I just don't get it. I don't. And you come up with creative ways to try to make the other person pick. You know, I'm really not all that hungry. I don't care what we have tonight. You just pick. It doesn't work. Nobody ever picks. Finally, you're mad and you just drive somewhere, wherever you pull into. That's where you go.
Sonic.
But we have to overcome the selfishness. Now, I like to blame it on, a lot of times I really am just thinking about Shallow, and I want her to be able to eat wherever she wants to. But sometimes it's just me being selfish, and I don't want to make one more decision today. I'm done. But we have to be able to overcome that. Turn with me, if you will, to 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, I'm going to read verse 4. I'm just going to stop on verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. Love does not demand its own way. If you are going to thrive in your marriage, you cannot demand your own way. All the men said amen. That's just the way. You cannot demand your own way. I found out when I demand something of my wife, I might as well do it myself. It's not taking place. You can't demand your own way in situations if you want to thrive, because that's not what true love does. It's not jealous, it's not boastful, it's patient and kind, it's not proud or rude. It doesn't demand its own way. To have a thriving relationship, to have a thriving marriage, you have to get over yourself. That's just point blank, right off the bat, you have to get over yourself. To thrive, you have to humble yourself. When you desire to see your spouse or to see the other person in the relationship, if it's not a marriage relationship, when you desire to see your spouse happy, and that takes precedence over your happiness, and it brings you true joy, not just tolerance. It brings you true joy to see that person happy. When you reach that spot, you will begin to see your marriage or your relationship thrive. When somebody else's happiness is more important to you than your own, when somebody else's needs being met are more important to you than your own needs being met, you will begin to see your marriage thrive. But it will only fully thrive when that is reciprocated. A truly thriving marriage, that's going to go both ways. A truly thriving marriage, each person is going to be more concerned about the other person's happiness than their own. And in the middle there, they find some sort of compromise that will help each of them thrive. You have to overcome your selfishness. The second thing that you have to do, you have to master, is you have to master handling conflict. Handling conflict. Now, this one's a hard one. I don't remember our first argument as a married couple. I remember our first argument as a dating couple, Shawan tells the story all the time. I couldn't possibly forget it. Our first argument as a dating couple was over French fries at Sonic in Norman on Lindsay Street. I do remember it. I said, "What would you like to eat?" She said, "Just a corn dog with mustard." That's it? Just a corn dog. Okay, I ordered. I would like a double cheeseburger, French fries, large Dr. Pepper. At that time, I was still hooked on the Dr. Peppers. Large Dr. Pepper and a corn dog with mustard. That's it. We get the food. And she says, "I'll just have some of your fries." No! No! That's not the way this works. I specifically asked you, what would you like? She said corn dog with mustard. And I said, "Is that it?" "Yes, that's it. That's all. That's everything." That's what that meant. It's all inclusive. I just want a corn dog. Then she says, "I'll have some of your fries." "No, you won't. Those are my fries. I would have ordered you 15 orders of fries if you wanted them. I ordered exactly how many fries I wanted. They shortchange you anyway. They never fill the thing up. And now she's on some of them." I learned early on how to handle conflict. You've heard it said you can either be happy or you can be right. I decided I would rather be happy. From that time forward, I decided I would rather be happy. And it doesn't matter how lovey-dovey you are, how great your relationship is, conflict will happen. You are not going to agree on everything. Sometimes it feels like you can't agree on anything. But you definitely will not agree on everything. Conflict will happen. But where we get into trouble is unresolved conflict. Unresolved conflict equals something floating. Unresolved conflict equals danger. Danger. Unresolved conflict is danger. Here's why. Women, don't be mad at me. Too late. Unresolved conflict will cause problems because after the conflict, we're going to separate and walk our different ways, and the guy's going to go beat up something in the lawn or, throw something or kick something, and he's going to come back in, and he thinks it's over. But the ladies in the room know it's not over. It's not even close to over. It could be 2 weeks from now, and it will not be over. It could be 2 years from now. And if that conflict hasn't come to some sort of mutual resolution, that's not over. You can still be having a fight from 1983 if you've been married that long. Because unresolved conflict does something to us. I don't know if it's just that we don't care. Yes, guys, we don't care, or we just get over things quick for the most part, or what it is, but normally that's not our issue so much. We have our own issues, trust me, we got other ones. But this conflict thing, it seems to be that women have a tendency to hold on to that stuff. They have memories and they remember those things. And you have to resolve that if your marriage is going to thrive. Now that doesn't mean that all the time that you just have to accept whatever she says. If you want to be happy, it does, but I'm just kidding. Hey, you don't have to just take, but you have to do the hard work of resolving those conflicts. That's what we don't like to do as guys. We don't like to have those tough conversations. We don't want to have those long, drawn-out discussions that we would call arguments or screaming or what. We don't want to have any of that. We want quiet and to watch TV. But unless we go through that and we resolve those conflicts, unless we bring those to some sort of conclusion, those things will just fester in our relationship and they come up at the most inopportune times. And the next conflict you have will not just be a minor conflict, it's now a major conflict because there's two conflicts stacked on top of each other. Unresolved conflict is danger. Look with me, if you will, in Ephesians 4:26. It says, "And don't sin by letting anger gain control over you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry. For anger gives a mighty foothold to the devil." anger gives a mighty foothold to the devil. I truly believe that this is one of the main reasons that we have relationship troubles, that we have marriage troubles, are these unresolved conflicts. And we decide to just not deal with it, to not bring it out in the open, to not work it out. And what that does is it gives the devil a foothold. It gives him a spot in our lives where he can just start twisting the knife. Remember, back in John 10, it says his job is to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy your relationship. And this gives him an opportunity to slip in. You have, in effect, left the back door unlocked. And he comes in at those times and he begins to breed division. And he begins to say, see, I told you he wouldn't see it your way. He doesn't really care about you, or he would be working this out. See, I told you she was just an old biddy. Yeah, I told you she's never going to be happy. No matter what you do, she'll never be happy. It doesn't matter how hard you work, or what you do, or how far you go to please her. It's never going to be enough. That's what happens. The devil gets in there and he starts twisting all of those things, and he begins working in our minds, and those unresolved conflicts begin to work on us. Whether it's in marriage or any other relationship, it works the same. If you're best friends and you have an issue that comes up and you refuse to deal with it, guess what? It's going to begin to slowly tear you apart. Unresolved conflict equals danger. We have to be kind, tenderhearted, and forgive. Verse 31 of chapter 4 says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of malicious behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Do you realize you never made your sins right? You have never done anything to make up for the sins that you committed. It's impossible for you to do enough to make up for the sins you committed with Christ. His blood, His death on the cross, His dying and shedding blood for you and being raised again, that is the only thing that can atone for your sin. He just forgave you even though you were not deserving it. If we are to forgive our spouse or forgive those people in our relationships the way that Christ forgave us, then we a lot of times have to forgive even though when they are not deserving, even though when they are unrepentant, even though when they don't see what they did was wrong. And a lot of times we have to forgive regardless. If you want your marriage to thrive, or you want your relationships to thrive, you have to be willing to give unconditional love. And that means forgiving regardless. You have to be kind. You have to be tender-hearted. And you have to forgive. It should bother you if your spouse is upset with you. It should not be okay with you. If it's okay when they're upset with you, you need to do some soul searching. You need to get the heart of Christ. It should not be okay. The Bible says that the two shall become one, which means that, guys, if she's hurting, you should be hurting. Ladies, if he's hurting, you should be hurting. If not, then you're not thriving and you need to get there. You need to master these things. You need to work hard on these things and get to the point where you really are one. Where you really are one. So we have to master handling conflict. The third thing that we have to do is control our urges. Now, I want to keep this very PG, so don't worry. We have to be able to control our urges. Look with me in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. It says, give honor to marriage and remain faithful to one another in marriage. God will surely judge people who are immoral and those who commit adultery. Give honor to your marriage. Control yourself. Control your urges. We will all be tempted. This is no secret. There's no point where you will be holy enough that you are not tempted. Jesus was tempted. Trust me, you will be tempted. This area is something that our society will tempt us with on a daily basis. You have to be able to control those urges. Men, you have to guard your eyes. Turn with me to Matthew. Matthew chapter 5. Verse 27 says, "You have heard that the law of Moses says, 'Do not commit adultery.' But I say," this is Jesus, "I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust in his eye has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Just looking is not okay. Just looking is not okay. I realize there are beautiful people on this earth. And noticing beauty is one thing. But lust is something totally different. Guys are very triggered by sight. And it's one thing to see beauty, but it's another thing to see beauty and then let your mind run with that. It's not okay to just look. Because just looking leads to other things. You can say, "Well, John, that's very, whatever. I'm not like that. That's not what I'm doing." Well, maybe you're stronger than every other man on the universe. I'm not going to argue with you about that. But if you say, "I'm just looking," it's more than likely an excuse to cover up what you were really doing. And it's not okay. Can we just make it just plain and simple right there? It's not okay. All right? I could go into detail. I could be very specific here, but I don't need to because you're all very intelligent individuals. Look at your wife. Look at your wife. Love your spouse the way that you loved her as she was walking down that aisle. Look at her the way that you looked at her when you proposed. Honor her. Cherish her. Have your eyes fixed on her. And your marriage will thrive. Women, not to let you off the hook. Women, you need to guard your thoughts. Because as much as guys are triggered by their eyes, women are triggered by their mind. There is no other reason that those Harlequin romance novels would be popular. Because they're horribly written. Terrible storylines. It's all in the imagination. It's all where it leads your thoughts. That's the reason that some of the shows that are popular. Because it leads your thoughts, and you begin to live in this fantasy world that does not even really exist. Philippians 4:8. Philippians 4:8 says it this way. Man, I got a lot of verses today. I apologize. Philippians 4:8 says this. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right. Think about things that are pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Fantasies are just that. They're fantasies. This hero that is in your show or your book or whatever it is, he does not exist. He was created out of the warped mind of some other woman. He does not exist. That person does not exist. It's not real. It's a fantasy because it is made to play on your mind. It is made to draw you in. And that's what happens. You become drawn in to these storylines and this romance and this perfect guy that smells good all the time and that always picks up after himself and that does everything that you need him to do. He does not exist. The same way that the woman like that does not exist. Ladies say all the time that they are being held to unreal standards and unachievable standards in magazines and in film and in internet sites and things of that. You're being held to unrealistic expectations. Well, guess what? So are guys. They're being held to unrealistic expectations through these stories that lead your mind down past. And what happens is it's not necessarily that the storyline is bad, but it begins to give you unrealistic expectations of who your husband is supposed to be. And those unrealistic expectations are just another way of opening the back door up and letting Satan in, and he begins to twist and say, well, I really wish that he was more like Fabio or whoever. How old is Fabio now? Like 82? Anyway, if he was just more like him, his hair would blow in the wind. That dude ain't even got any hair anymore. Give him a break. It's just unrealistic. And when you set those unrealistic expectations, whether you are the male or the female in the relationship, when you set those expectations, you let those expectations get set in your mind and they're unrealistic, it leads you back up a number. You go back to conflict. Everything's going to be amplified. You're not going to be able to thrive because your expectations are not realistic. So women, in this area, you need to control your thoughts. Guys, you need to control your eyes. And if you both do that, your marriage will begin to thrive. Lastly, number 4, we have to master, just like we said last week, we have to master reflecting Christ. In Ephesians chapter 5, I'm going to read a lot of verses here. 21 through 33. It says, and further, listen to this, because we pick and choose from this passage of Scriptures a lot. This gets picked apart a lot. But I want you to listen to the way this first verse is worded here. And further, you will submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Now, this is the part that the guys always quote. You wives will submit to your husbands as you do to the Lord. For a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is the head of his body, the church. He gave his life to be her Savior. Now, if we stop there, all the guys in the room are happy. It means you have to do what we say. Submit. Right? That's what... But if you read on, 24 says, as the church submits to Christ, so you wives must submit to your husbands in everything. Verse 25 says, and you husbands must love your wives with the same love Christ showed the church. He gave up his life for her. He gave up his life for the church. So what's that mean? What's our responsibility? That means we lay down our lives. We get rid of selfishness. We decide that we would rather be happy than right. We lay down our lives for her. Verse 26, to make her holy and clean, washed by baptism in God's Word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church, without a spot or wrinkle or any other blemish. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. Now, this gets us in trouble. Because sometimes we do treat our wives the way we treat our own bodies. the cheeseburger and fries from Sonic. But you need to love, what it's saying here is you need to love your wife the same way that you love yourself. For a man is actually loving himself when he loves his wife. No one hates his own body, but lovingly cares for it. Just as Christ cares for his body, which is the church. And we are his body. As the scriptures say, a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. This is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. So again, I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Our marriage should reflect Christ's love. This may not be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. Guys, you are the head of your marriage. Biblically. And too many guys have taken that the wrong direction. And have taken the stance for, oh, this is my house, bless God, we'll do what I say we're going to do. I can guarantee you that is not a happy man. But if you're truly the head of your relationship, if you're the head of your marriage, if you're truly the head of your household, then you should be leading, because that's what the head does. That means you should lead in spiritual matters. Be honest with you, as guys, we have relegated that off to the wives a lot of times. And it's not their job. And when they take on that responsibility and we get frustrated, you know why we're frustrated? It's not that they've taken on the responsibility. We're frustrated because that's really our responsibility. Deep down inside of us, we know that we're not doing it right. Deep down inside of us, we know that we're slacking off. And ingrained in every one of us is the desire to be the man, to do what we're supposed to do, to take care of our wives, to take care of our families. And we relegate that off too many times. You should be the one that your kids come to pray for you. You should be the one that your wife comes to and says, honey, I just need you to pray with me. I realize that that's hitting home and that's hitting hard. We said back several months ago that we wanted to totally transform our Christian walk. That we were going to be a part of this revolution. We were going to change the way that church looked, that we were going to change the way that we live this Christian life. And I believe that this is paramount in that. Guys, you need to take the reins. But you have to do it the way that Christ did. You have to lay down your life. That means your needs become less important. Your family's needs become way more important. That means you love your wife the way that Christ loved the church. It means you lay down your life for it. You forgive regardless. You love regardless. I tell my wife every day, multiple times a day, how much I love her. That's not lifting me up. I do that as much for me as I do for her, to be honest with you. Can I just be honest? Sometimes I need to convince myself. After we've had an argument, which believe it or not, after 20 years, they're getting fewer and further between. But even at first, I would always say, I love you. Made her so mad. She wouldn't say it back. I'd just say, I love you. And I never told her, but I was really just convincing myself a lot of times. I do love you. I do love you. I do love you. But that's what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes letting them know that you love them, letting them know that you're there for them, and reminding yourself, I'm in love. I am in love with my wife. I will give up my life for my wife. She is everything I need. I don't need to look that way or that way. I have my wife. She is beautiful. God has blessed me. Ladies, all for this feminism stuff. All for you opening your own door, saves me some trouble. Whatever. But if you want your marriage to thrive, you need to learn how to submit to your husband. Oh, this is going to get the emails and text messages. Go ahead, I'll answer them. But if your husband is stepping up to try to lead in a godly way, you need to follow him. If you feel that he's leading the family astray, and that there's some things are happening that are totally unbiblical, I'm not telling you to blindly follow, but I'm telling you to submit in love. To be a team. Basically, he's the team captain. You're both working for the same goal. You want your marriage to thrive. You want to grow closer to Christ. And Christ set up the way that it should work. Just go back and read in Ephesians there. Go back and study it yourself. Don't just take my word for it. See what that looks like in your relationship. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. See what God wants you to do in your relationship and start doing it. And you will see your marriage begin to thrive. When you begin to reflect Christ, each one of you, your marriage will thrive. Now is the time. Now is the time to let it thrive. I always hated the statistic that got thrown around that the divorce rate was just as high in the church as it was anywhere else. That it wasn't the world. Do you know what? That's not an accurate statistic. Where they pulled that statistic out from was people, they took people who identified themselves as Christians. Their divorce rate was the same as people who did not identify themselves as Christians. When you break that down and you say, okay, of those that regularly practice their religion or regularly attend church or are devoted Christians, that number plummets. You know why? Because when Christ is in the center of your relationship, your marriage is going to thrive. I think we would be hard-pressed to find a relationship, a marriage that didn't work out because Christ was in the center of it. Many of you are in here and you're divorced. I'm not coming down on you. I get it. I understand. Sometimes things happen. But my guess is Christ wasn't the center of that relationship. And as you move forward and you're already into another marriage or you're looking to have another marriage, then what I would do if I wanted to see success in my next relationship is I would be sure that whoever I decided to say till death do us part with this time, that we made sure Christ was in the center of that relationship. If you're in a relationship right now and you feel like your marriage is just surviving, then what I would do personally, if I was in that situation, I would go home today and I would say, look, babe, I filled all this out and I'm going to put this right here on our bathroom mirror. And each day I'm going to work on one of these things. And after I mess up, we may have to move to number 2 and I'll work on that one. But I'm going to put this here, and as the man of this relationship, I'm going to start. I realize that I've messed up. I haven't treated you the way that I should treat you sometimes. And from this moment on, I'm ready for our relationship to thrive. And I'm going to stick this here, and it's going to remind me every day as I'm getting ready that I need to overcome my selfishness, that I need to handle conflict, not just let it stew. I really need to handle it, that I need to control my urges, and that I need to reflect Christ. If my marriage wasn't thriving, that's what I'd do. But you get to pick. You decide what you're going to do. But after this, you don't have any excuses. You've been told what the Word says. All I'm saying is go and do it. And our vision as a church, as a church body, to invest in people and invite them to discover Christ, when they begin to see your relationship take on a new look, when they begin to see how happy the two of you are together, it's going to draw them to you. It's going to draw them to Christ. They're going to want the type of relationship that you have. We're going to change this community. It has to start inside our own homes. That's why it's so important that we build thriving marriages.